The night sky over Earth was peaceful. Stars sparkled like diamonds above the dark forests, but one light was not a star. It moved across the sky like a wounded bird. It was a ship, small and broken, leaving a trail of fire as it fell through the atmosphere. Inside the ship sat a family of 4. They were not human. Their skin was pale silver, their eyes wide and glowing like soft lanterns. The father struggled at the controls, his hands shaking. The mother wrapped her arms around their 2 children, whispering comfort in a language that no one on Earth had ever heard. They were not soldiers. They were not explorers. They were refugees. For weeks they had searched for a safe place. Their people had once lived across the stars, but stronger species hunted them down. Former allies closed their doors. Once, they had friends and homes, but those were gone now. Everywhere they traveled, they were rejected. No one wanted them. The ship groaned as metal tore apart. The father pressed buttons with desperation, guiding the falling vessel toward the thick forest below. His heart pounded as the planet's surface grew closer. He knew this world was unknown. He knew there was danger. But he had no other choice. The crash was violent. Trees split apart as the ship slammed into the earth. A wave of fire rushed across the forest floor. Birds screamed and flew into the sky. Animals fled in terror. Smoke rose into the night air, carrying sparks of burning leaves. When the ship came to rest, silence followed. Then, slowly, the hatch opened. The alien father stepped out first. His silver skin caught the moonlight as he breathed the strange air of Earth. His legs shook, but he stayed standing. Behind him, the mother held the children close, her eyes wide with fear. The mother whispered softly, "Another world. Will they push us away too?" The father looked at her but could not answer. He knew too well what had happened on every other world. Rejection. Hatred. Violence. In the distance, humans had already seen the fireball streak across the sky. Farmers and villagers from a nearby settlement were gathering. Some carried lanterns. Others whispered about fallen stars and strange omens. Curiosity pushed them toward the forest. The alien father heard their footsteps. He turned back to his family and told them to stay hidden inside the broken ship. His children clung to their mother as he stepped forward into the shadows of the trees. Branches cracked under human boots. Voices grew louder. And then, through the smoke, humans appeared. A group of villagers stood with lanterns glowing in their hands. When they saw the silver figure, they froze. Their eyes widened in shock. The alien raised both hands slowly to show peace. His voice came out in broken sounds, words that meant nothing to human ears. He wanted them to know he was not dangerous. But the humans were afraid. One man whispered, "Monster." Another said, "Dangerous creature." Fear spread among them like fire. The alien's heart sank. It was the same as before. The same fear. The same rejection. He closed his eyes, preparing for the worst. One of the villagers raised a stick, ready to strike. The alien did not move. His thoughts were only of his children, waiting behind the wreck, hoping their father would return. But something unexpected happened. From behind the villagers, a small human boy stepped forward. He was no older than 10. He ignored the shouts of the adults and walked closer to the alien. His eyes were not filled with fear. They were filled with wonder. The alien opened his eyes. He saw the boy standing there, fragile but brave. Slowly, the boy raised his hand. He smiled. The alien hesitated. His hands trembled. But then, with great care, he reached out and touched the boy's hand with his long silver fingers. The villagers gasped. Some shouted for the boy to return. But the child did not move. He only looked at the alien as if he had discovered something amazing. For the first time in many years, the alien felt something deep inside his heart. It was small, fragile, but powerful. It was hope. Behind him, his family peeked out from the wreck. They saw the boy and the father's hand touching his. For a moment, their fear softened. But the silence of the forest broke suddenly. Far away, engines roared. Lights flashed through the trees. Red and blue beams lit the night as vehicles approached. The alien father's hope began to fade again. These were not simple villagers. This was something bigger. Perhaps soldiers, perhaps hunters, perhaps the same kind of authority that had always brought them pain. He looked back at his wife and children. Their eyes begged for safety. He looked again at the boy, who still held his hand. The father's heart pounded. Who was coming through the trees? Were they rescuers, or a new threat? The night air filled with the sound of engines and voices. The forest was no longer quiet. The alien family's future was about to change forever. The engines grew louder. Red and blue lights cut through the dark forest. The humans from the village stepped back in fear as large vehicles rolled toward the crash site. The boy quickly returned to his family, but his eyes never left the alien. The alien father stood frozen, his silver skin glowing faintly in the flashing lights. His wife and children hid behind the wreckage, peeking out with frightened eyes. The forest was no longer silent. Orders were shouted. Heavy boots hit the ground. A group of humans in dark uniforms appeared. They carried weapons, shining with cold steel. Their eyes scanned the wreck, then locked onto the alien. For a moment, everyone stood still. The villagers whispered among themselves. "Soldiers," one said. "The government must have seen the crash." The alien raised his hands again to show peace. His movements were slow, careful, almost desperate. He had no weapons. He had no army. He only had his family. One of the soldiers shouted, "Stay where you are." His voice was sharp, filled with authority. The alien did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. The children behind the wreck whimpered. The mother held them close, her heart pounding. She wanted to run, but where could they go? They had no ship left. No world left. The commander of the soldiers stepped forward. His face was stern. He looked at the alien, then at the wrecked ship. For a moment, he said nothing. He studied the strange figure standing in the moonlight. Then he gave an order. "Surround it." The soldiers spread out, their weapons raised. The alien father looked around. There was no escape. His mind raced. Every other species had treated them the same way: fear, hatred, violence. Would humans be different, or would this be the end? Suddenly, the small boy from earlier broke free from his parents. He ran past the soldiers and stood between them and the alien. His arms stretched wide as if to protect the stranger. The soldiers froze in surprise. "Get back!" one of them shouted, but the boy did not move. He turned his head and yelled at the adults. "He's not a monster. He's scared." The villagers gasped. Some looked away in shame. Others shook their heads. But the boy's voice carried truth. The commander frowned. He looked at the boy, then at the alien. For a long moment, silence filled the forest. The alien father felt his chest tighten. This small human child was the first to show kindness. He could feel the boy's courage. He wanted to believe it meant something. Slowly, the alien lowered his hands and touched his chest, then pointed toward the wreck. The commander narrowed his eyes, watching closely. The alien repeated the motion. His hand pressed against his chest, then pointed again toward the wreckage. He was trying to say something. The humans did not understand the words, but they understood the meaning. "Family." The commander raised a hand, signaling the soldiers to hold fire. For the first time, the alien allowed his wife and children to step forward. They moved carefully, holding on to each other. Their glowing eyes stared at the humans, wide with fear. Gasps filled the air. The villagers whispered. They were not looking at monsters anymore. They were looking at a mother, a father, and two frightened children. The boy smiled, his face glowing with excitement. "See, they're a family, just like us." The commander's face softened slightly, but his voice stayed firm. "We can't stay here. Secure the area. Move them to the transport." The alien father tensed. Soldiers stepped closer with chains and restraints. Fear rushed back into his mind. This was the moment he always feared. The moment when kindness turned into control. He spread his arms wide, standing in front of his family. His body shook, but his eyes burned with determination. If humans tried to harm them, he would fight. Even if it cost him everything. The soldiers raised their weapons again. The villagers shouted for the boy to return. The forest became a storm of voices, commands, and fear. But before anything could happen, the ground beneath them shook. A low hum filled the air. The trees trembled as if a great force was moving above them. Everyone looked up. Through the smoke and clouds, another ship appeared. Larger, darker, more dangerous. Its shadow covered the forest floor. The alien father's eyes widened in horror. He knew that ship. It did not belong to humans. It belonged to the hunters who had chased them across the stars. The commander of the soldiers shouted, "Positions!" Weapons aimed at the sky. The villagers screamed and began to run. The alien father pulled his family close. His voice shook as he whispered to them in their language. He knew what was coming. The hunters had found them. And this time, humans were standing in the middle of it. The massive ship hovered above the forest. Its dark shape blocked the moonlight, casting a terrifying shadow over the wreckage and the humans below. The hum of its engines rattled the ground. Trees shook. The air felt heavy, filled with power and danger. The alien father's heart dropped. He knew this ship. He had seen it before, many times, on many worlds. It belonged to the hunters. They were not soldiers of mercy. They were predators who tracked his people across the stars. Wherever they landed, they destroyed. The alien mother held her children tight. Their glowing eyes filled with tears. She whispered soft words of comfort, but her own voice trembled. She knew escape was impossible. The human commander stared at the sky, his jaw tight. He had no idea what kind of enemy this was, but he recognized a threat. "Form defensive positions," he shouted. Soldiers raised their weapons, pointing at the sky, though deep down they knew bullets and simple weapons could do little against such a machine. The villagers screamed and ran, scattering into the trees. But some stayed hidden, peeking through the branches, too shocked to look away. With a deep roar, the hunter's ship opened. A ramp slid down, and figures emerged. They were tall, armored, and menacing. Their eyes glowed red under their helmets. Their movements were sharp, like wolves ready to strike. The alien father stepped forward, his silver skin shining under the lights of the enemy ship. He spread his arms wide, blocking the humans from his family. He shouted in his language, his voice filled with both fear and defiance. The hunters laughed. The sound was harsh, mechanical, like broken metal grinding together. One of them raised a weapon, pointing it directly at the alien father. The human commander gave a quick order. "Stand ready." His soldiers aimed their rifles. The air was thick with tension. The alien father looked at the humans, then at his family. He knew the hunters wanted them alive, not dead. They would capture the family, drag them away, and erase them like all the others. But what would happen to these humans who had witnessed too much? He feared the answer. The boy who had touched the alien's hand earlier stepped forward again, ignoring the shouts of his parents. His small voice broke the silence. "Don't hurt them." Everyone turned. The boy stood shaking, but his courage burned brighter than his fear. He pointed at the alien family. "They're not enemies. They are scared. Just like us." The hunters tilted their heads, confused for a moment. They had no understanding of kindness. They saw weakness. With a loud snarl, one of the hunters fired into the trees. A blast of energy tore through the branches, sending villagers screaming in terror. The boy's parents grabbed him and pulled him back, their faces pale with fear. The human commander growled, "Open fire." The forest exploded with noise. Soldiers fired their rifles, the sharp crack of bullets filling the night. Sparks flew as shots bounced off hunter armor. Some found weak points, making the aliens stumble. But the hunters were strong, built for war. They marched forward, weapons glowing with deadly energy. The alien father felt rage rising in his chest. He could not watch his family be taken again. He roared in his own language and charged forward. With bare hands, he struck one of the hunters, sending it crashing into a tree. His strength, hidden beneath fear, came alive. The humans gasped. For the first time, they saw that this refugee father was not helpless. He was a protector. But more hunters poured out of the ship. They moved like a tide of steel, pushing back the soldiers. The ground burned as their weapons fired again and again. Trees split, smoke rose, and screams filled the night. The alien father fought fiercely, but there were too many. He stumbled back, blood glowing faintly on his silver skin. His wife cried out, pulling him toward the wreck. Their children clung to her, terrified. The commander shouted into his radio, calling for reinforcements. But who would arrive in time? The boy broke free from his parents once more. He ran toward the alien family, ignoring the chaos around him. The alien mother reached out instinctively, pulling the child into her arms before a blast struck the ground nearby. She shielded him with her body. The alien father looked at the boy, then at the humans fighting desperately. Something changed inside him. These humans were not like the others. They were standing against the hunters, even when they did not have to. He turned to his wife and whispered a single word in their language. Hope. But as he spoke, the hunter's leader stepped off the ramp. Taller, stronger, and armed with a weapon unlike the others. His red eyes locked onto the alien family. He pointed at them and gave a chilling order. Alive. The hunters moved in quickly, breaking through the human defenses. Soldiers fell back. The commander shouted for retreat. The villagers ran deeper into the forest. The alien father grabbed his wife's hand. His children clung to them, the human boy still in their arms. They were surrounded. The hunters closed in. And above, the great ship hummed louder, preparing for something worse. The hunters surrounded the clearing like wolves closing in on prey. Their red eyes glowed through the smoke, their armored feet crushing the forest floor. The leader stood tall at the front, his weapon raised. He had given his order. The alien family was to be taken alive. The alien father pulled his wife and children close. His silver skin was scratched and bleeding, his breath heavy, but his eyes were filled with fire. He would not let his family be captured again. The human commander gritted his teeth as he watched. His soldiers were falling back, their weapons almost useless against the hunter's armor. But retreating meant leaving the alien family behind. He looked at them, at the trembling children, at the mother holding them close, at the father standing like a shield, and then he looked at his own men. These were not monsters. They were a family. And they were terrified. The commander made his choice. Hold the line, he shouted. Protect them. The soldiers hesitated for only a second before obeying. They formed a wall of guns between the hunters and the wreck, firing shot after shot. Sparks lit the air. The hunters staggered under the storm of bullets, though their armor held strong. The alien father stared in shock. No other species had ever defended them. No one had ever stood in front of the hunters to protect his family. His chest tightened with emotion. Humans were different. The hunters roared and pushed forward. Their weapons unleashed blasts of red energy, tearing holes in the ground, burning trees, sending soldiers flying. The villagers screamed as they ran deeper into the forest. The air was thick with fire and smoke. The alien father knew the soldiers could not hold forever. He clenched his fists and stepped forward. His strength was not like a human's. He was stronger, faster. He slammed into one of the hunters, tearing the weapon from its grip and throwing the armored enemy across the clearing. The soldiers saw it. Their eyes widened with shock. But the commander shouted, "Fight with him!" For the first time, humans and alien fought side by side. The alien father struck down hunters with raw strength, while soldiers covered him with gunfire. Together, they slowed the enemy's advance. The alien mother held the children tight, her eyes glowing with both fear and pride as she watched her mate fight. The little human boy, still in her arms, clung to her clothes but kept his gaze fixed on the silver warrior. He whispered, "Don't give up." But the hunter's leader finally moved. He stepped forward, towering above the others, his weapon glowing with deadly energy. He fired. A beam of red light streaked across the clearing, striking the ground near the alien father. The explosion sent him crashing into the wreckage. The mother screamed. The children cried. Soldiers fired wildly at the leader, but their bullets bounced off his armor like rain against stone. The commander cursed under his breath. This was no ordinary foe. The alien father groaned as he pushed himself up. His body ached, but he refused to fall. He looked at the leader, then at his family. Slowly, painfully, he stood tall again. The leader aimed his weapon at him, ready to end the fight. But something unexpected happened. The small human boy broke free from the alien mother's arms. He ran into the clearing, standing between the leader and the alien father. His arms spread wide, his voice shaking but strong. "Stop," the boy cried. "You can't take them." The leader paused, confused. His red eyes scanned the child. He tilted his head, almost amused. Then he raised his weapon again. The alien father's heart froze. He could not let this child, this symbol of hope, be harmed. With a roar, he lunged forward, knocking the boy out of the way just as the leader fired. The blast struck him across the chest, throwing him to the ground. The forest went silent. The alien mother screamed his name. The children sobbed. The soldiers shouted in anger and fired with renewed fury. The commander ordered his men to cover the family. The alien father lay on the ground, smoke rising from his chest. His silver skin was scorched, but his eyes still glowed faintly. He reached out, his hand trembling, toward his wife and children. They rushed to his side, tears falling down their glowing cheeks. The boy crawled to him too, gripping his silver hand. "Don't leave," he whispered. The alien father coughed weakly. He looked at the boy, then at the humans who still fought desperately against the hunters. For the first time, he felt something he had not known for years: he was not alone. But the hunter's leader was not finished. He raised his weapon once more, aiming at the family huddled together. His voice was cold, cruel. "No one escapes." The alien mother covered her children with her body. The soldiers shouted, but they were too far to stop the shot in time. The commander aimed, but his bullets would not be fast enough. The leader's weapon glowed brighter. The blast fired. The blast from the hunter leader's weapon shot across the clearing like a burning comet. The alien mother closed her eyes and wrapped her arms around the children, ready to take the hit. The human boy clung to her tightly, whispering a prayer he barely understood. But the strike never reached them. At the very last second, the human commander dove forward. He slammed his shoulder into the alien mother, pushing her and the children aside. The beam of energy struck him instead, throwing him backward in a burst of fire and smoke. The soldiers gasped. "Commander!" The alien father forced himself up, his chest still smoking from the earlier blast. His body ached, but he saw what the commander had done. A human had risked his life to protect them. The truth hit him harder than any weapon: humans were different. They were not like the other species that had turned away. These humans were fighting for him, for his family, even when they had no reason to. The commander coughed, blood on his lips, but his voice was strong. "Don't let them win." The soldiers roared in anger, firing harder, pushing back with everything they had. Sparks lit the trees, smoke burned the air, and the ground shook under the battle. The hunters were strong, but the humans refused to give ground. The alien father looked at his wife and children. Their eyes begged him not to give up. He looked at the boy, who was still clutching his silver hand, refusing to let go. Something inside him broke free. With a roar that echoed through the forest, he charged at the hunters. His body moved with unnatural strength. He ripped weapons from their hands, slammed armored soldiers into the dirt, and tore through their ranks like a storm. His silver skin glowed brighter, his eyes blazing. He was no longer only a refugee. He was a protector. The hunters snarled, turning their weapons on him. Blasts of energy hit his body, burning his flesh, but he did not fall. The soldiers, inspired by his courage, fought harder. The villagers who had hidden returned with tools and torches, joining the fight. For the first time, humans stood as one against a force from the stars. The alien mother watched with tears in her eyes. She had seen her mate broken, beaten, hopeless. But now she saw him rise higher than ever before. She whispered to her children, "Look. That is your father. That is our strength." The hunter's leader growled, furious at the resistance. He leapt into the battle, his massive weapon swinging with deadly power. He struck the alien father, sending him crashing to the ground. Dust rose. The leader aimed his weapon again, ready to end it. But before he could fire, the alien father rolled aside and grabbed the weapon's barrel. With a surge of strength, he twisted it away and slammed his fist into the leader's chest. The ground shook with the impact. The leader staggered, his armor cracking. Gasps filled the air. No one had ever struck down the hunter's leader before. The soldiers cheered. The villagers shouted. Hope spread like fire. But the leader only laughed, a deep, cruel sound. He ripped off his broken helmet, revealing a monstrous face with burning red eyes and sharp teeth. You cannot stop us, he hissed. You will all fall. The alien father stared at him, his chest heaving. His body was weak, but his will was stronger than ever. Not while I breathe, he growled in his language. The leader raised a hidden blade from his arm, glowing red-hot. He lunged forward. The alien father braced himself. Their clash sent sparks flying. Behind them, the alien mother pulled the human boy close, whispering, "Stay still. Stay brave." Her children held onto her, eyes wide with fear but also pride. The commander, still lying wounded, called out to his men. "Help him. Don't stop fighting." The soldiers obeyed, pouring fire on the hunters to keep them from surrounding the alien father. But even as they fought, the great ship above began to hum louder. Its engines glowed brighter. Something worse was coming. The alien father locked eyes with the leader as they struggled against each other. The leader grinned, his voice full of cruelty. "We have more than one ship. Even if you win tonight, we will return. You will never escape us." The father's heart pounded. Was it true? Were they doomed no matter what? He looked again at the humans fighting beside him, at the boy who had touched his hand, at his family huddled behind the wreck. Maybe they could not escape. But maybe they could stand. The father roared, lifting the leader and slamming him into the ground with all his strength. The earth cracked beneath the force. The hunters froze in shock. For a moment, the impossible had happened. The leader snarled, but before he could rise, the father raised the stolen weapon high above him. His body shook with pain, but his eyes blazed with determination. The humans and hunters alike watched, breathless, as he prepared to strike. And then, the great ship above the trees began to descend, its shadow covering the battlefield, its weapons charging with a deadly glow. The hunter's great ship descended lower, its engines roaring like thunder. The trees bent under the pressure of its power. Its massive cannons glowed, charging for a strike that would destroy everything in the clearing: humans, aliens, soldiers, villagers. The alien father stood over the hunter leader, the stolen weapon still in his hands. His chest burned with pain, his silver skin scarred, but his spirit was unbroken. Around him, soldiers and villagers braced themselves, knowing the end was close. The alien mother held her children close, the human boy still clinging to her side. She whispered soft words to calm them, though her own heart shook with fear. She looked at her mate, her eyes full of both love and despair. The commander, bleeding and barely able to move, shouted with the last of his strength. "We can't outrun that ship. We have to stop it." The alien father stared at the glowing cannons. His mind raced. If the ship fired, there would be nothing left. Not his family. Not the humans who had fought for them. Nothing. The hunter leader laughed, even as he lay broken on the ground. "Fool. You think you can win? This world will burn. Your family will be ash. Just like all the others." The father's grip tightened on the weapon. His whole life had been running, hiding, being rejected. But tonight, he had seen something different. Humans had not turned away. They had stood beside him. A child had held his hand without fear. A commander had thrown himself in front of death to protect his family. For the first time in years, he had hope. He would not let that hope die. He turned to the commander and the soldiers. His voice, though broken, carried strength. He pointed to his family, then to the humans. He pressed his chest and spoke one word in his language. "Together." The commander understood. He nodded, blood running down his face. "Then we fight together." The soldiers roared in agreement. The villagers, though terrified, raised their torches and tools. Even the little boy shouted, his voice trembling but fierce, "Don't let them win." The alien father lifted the weapon high. Now. The humans fired everything they had. Bullets, fire, courage, it all filled the night. The alien father charged, leaping toward the great ship as its cannons prepared to fire. His body glowed brighter than ever, silver light shining against the dark sky. The hunters tried to stop him, but soldiers and villagers held the line. The commander shouted orders, his voice carrying strength even through pain. The alien mother cried out as she watched her mate run into the heart of danger, but she knew what he was doing. He was giving them a chance. The father reached the ship's landing ramp. He climbed with desperate strength, blasts of energy striking around him. His body burned, but he did not stop. At the top, he saw the massive core powering the cannons. It pulsed with deadly light, seconds away from firing. He looked back one last time. Below, he saw his family, their glowing eyes locked on him. He saw the boy, holding the mother's hand, shouting encouragement. He saw humans, strangers, fighting and bleeding to protect those they barely knew. A tear rolled down his silver cheek. He raised the stolen weapon and drove it into the glowing core. The world exploded with light. The ship shook violently, fire bursting from its sides. Hunters screamed as the blast consumed them. The soldiers and villagers fell to the ground, covering their heads. The alien mother shielded her children as the shockwave rushed over them. Then, silence. The humans slowly looked up. The great ship was gone. Only burning wreckage remained, scattered across the forest. The hunters were defeated. But where was he? The alien mother searched the flames with desperate eyes. No, no, she whispered. Her children cried, calling for their father. At last, from the smoke, a figure stumbled forward. His body was broken, his silver skin burned, but he was alive. The alien father dragged himself back to his family. The mother ran to him, tears streaming down her face. She threw her arms around him, holding him as if she would never let go. The children clung to him, their small voices filled with joy. The human boy smiled through his tears. He did it. The commander, barely able to stand, looked at the alien family. His voice was weak but proud. Welcome to Earth. The alien father raised his head, his glowing eyes meeting the commander's. For the first time in years, he felt safe. Not because the danger was gone, but because he was not alone. Humans had refused to walk away. The night sky was quiet again, the stars shining above. The forest was scarred, but alive. Among the ruins, a new bond had been forged, not of blood, not of race, but of courage and hope. The alien father held his family close, his voice soft as he whispered to them in his language. The words were simple, but their meaning was clear. Home.